Welcome to another edition of the Tom Green Podcast. This time we have a guest in studio, and the last time this guest was in studio, we were talking about some serious stuff. We were referring to the Urban Meyer debauchery at Ohio State. We brought in, once again, if you've listened to that show, you remember his name, and you've heard his name many times before. He is our superfan. His name is Alex Dewitt.
Hi, Tom. I am back.
Of course. Welcome back to the show, Rams fan Alex.
Yeah, it's great that it's this week because, hey, late in the season, we can clinch in Detroit, and I can see it. I'm so thrilled for that.
Of course. As for me, well, it's just another good day down in Detroit, and I'll try to meet as many sports people as possible as he's not surprised.
Yeah, the secondary objective is to watch Tom as he finds different seats to talk to people that I don't recognize until he tells me who they are, and I go, oh, they work for them. Oh. Had that a lot in September.
Yes, in fact, well, I'll mention one of them at least. There was a new Tigers in-stadium host that I think it was her only night doing. Her name was Brooklyn. I had noticed that she was like right towards the end of our section, and as she was coming up, I'm like, Alex, switch seats. Brooklyn!
Yeah, it was. He's very intense when you. If you're a media personality and he's at the same game you are, you could probably expect a visit, or at least him staring you down from across the stadium.
As Jeff has said before, I am a resident meatball and perhaps a savant, to say the least. With that being said, thankfully for his sake, I brought in a different guest a few hours ago, and the podcast is already up. Aaron Gosser to talk Ohio State and Northwestern. I know you didn't want to talk about that at all.
No, another disappointing the game. It is turning to the Ohio State game, unfortunately. One win this decade is not looking too hot, and that's through technically three different coaches. Barely, but technically through three different coaches. So they need to step that up.
They do, but I will say this before we get started. Look at Kentucky's streak to Florida. 0 for 20-something until this year. Minnesota. Twitter was not even a thing the last time Minnesota beat Wisconsin. Now, I'm not defending what's happening by any means. I'm saying there are streaks of big rivalries like this that have gone for longer than what has conspired. But sometime it's got to happen.
Yeah, especially when, at least this year and possibly one of the other years under Harbaugh, Michigan was favored, or at least extremely close to favored, within 3 points, and they dropped both games in wide margins almost across the board.
So something will have to change in Harbaugh's perspective to win this game. Now, before, like I had said on the Ohio State show, if you're thinking that Harbaugh needs to go, you're nuts. And the reason is this season. Really. 10-2 this year, and a year that, in fact, one of my regulars at work, Al, had told me, if they lose to Notre Dame, they're going to go 6-7. Well, yes, they did lose to Notre Dame, but they won the next 10. They had 2 big games at home and 1 on the road. The road against Michigan State and then home to Wisconsin and Penn State. All ranked games.
Which is crazy considering the last 3 weeks showed the parity of the middle of the Big Ten with Wisconsin, Michigan State, and Penn State kind of falling off the face of the earth. Mm-hmm. So it looks like the Big 12 has possibly a better parity system, as you've heard online and through everyone talking about the conferences. But there is some in the Big Ten. It just happened to show its weakness extremely late.
Exactly, and it might have been the Big House that got to them, because after they got thrashed at the Big House, they fell off the face of the earth.
Yeah, well, except for Michigan State, but that was the whole offense just kind of ground to a halt after week 5. So, stuff happens.
Of course, and unless you're Ohio State, you see the Don Brown mustache and you just cower in fear and just run away.
Yeah,
because he's throwing smoke. So, Michigan talk set aside, let's finally talk about the real reason we brought him in. But first, as he has always wanted to, go ahead and hit an ad for us. Anyone.
The bed of your dreams, Nectar has aligned all their efforts around one simple promise: the best sleep of your life guaranteed. Featuring a 365-night trial and a forever warranty, this bed will be the best you've ever owned. Nectar, the most comfortable mattress.
I'm sure my drinking buddy Aaron probably had the best sleep of his life after Saturday, watching Ohio State destroy Michigan. But
that's what you get for having Ohio friends.
Yeah, but they're at least good people. So, bring him back to the actual reason why I brought him on the show. We're not talking about Urban Meyer. We're not talking about Laura Rutledge's response to Urban Meyer, which I thought was great. And in fact, from that, I actually got to meet Laura at one of the games. And she liked that I brought her up on the show. So first talking point here, Rams offense. I'm not talking about the greatest show on turf 2. Is it the greatest show on turf squared?
Well, this is really up until Cooper Kupp got hurt, it was the one personnel set wonder. Over 90% of the snaps were Gurley in the backfield, Kupp, Cook, and Woods out as receivers, and Higbee usually a blocking tight end because they haven't thrown to him much this year. And now with Cooper Kupp gone, they've been adding in more Kaderil Hodge. We saw him versus Kansas City make some pretty good catches, and Josh Reynolds is getting some more play time. But we have to hope that with Kupp gone, that there's a little bit of change up to the system, because neither of them can replace the straight line speed of Cooper Kupp in the slot. And I think we saw it work against Kansas City. They exploited a couple of weak spots that were known to the Rams on Kansas City defense, and they came up to really make the plays needed and make sure that 50 points can be scored on both teams.
Right, and that wasn't a pitiful that was not a pitiful defensive show by either team, although the score says it was. It was two great offenses just showing up on the turf of the LA Coliseum.
And in the play set of how the rules are set somewhat against defenses. If you look at back from the 70s when the defense could literally throw a receiver over their shoulder and not get called for anything, that's definitely a way to go. I mean, you look at even how the fantasy points scored out. Rams were at 16 points in standard fantasy scoring, and they had Ibukam show up like none other for the weak linebacking core of the Rams, which was the attacking point all season. They managed to put pressure on Mahomes and get a strip sack and almost get a second one. And then you had 2 late picks, which really helped there. You can't really say it was garbage time because the Chiefs were playing for something at that point. Now, if it was Blake Bortles and he did that, yes, that'd be garbage time. But we're talking a team that was down a score and just trying to get back in the game with a couple minutes left.
Speaking of garbage time, Alex had showed me a meme on Monday morning. It was Blake Bortles' new friend, a bench.
Yes, I saw he got benched. I was not too surprised. I don't know if it's ownership or coaching that decided to make that choice, because it's the second time it's happened in the last couple of years. And he'll probably be back in after they see how bad their backup quarterback is. But it's bound to happen. He's not a great quarterback. He's literally a system quarterback in Jacksonville.
A lot of people, especially on Twitter, call Tom Brady exactly that, a system quarterback.
And we'll never know until he retires.
Exactly. So, of course, I mentioned to you it's not the GSOT2, it's the greatest show on turf squared, because he's a math person.
Yeah, they're doing offensive yards is just insane. I mean, even in the efficiency level, Rams first for pass offense efficiency, third in rush offensive efficiency, and that's what them doing diddly squat with Gurley last week. You have easily, by almost any metric, top 3 quarterback in Goff and top 2 quarterback in Gurley. And again, he didn't really play last against Kansas City. He was just there. He didn't get many touches. So you have this offense, and you have the 2 major components of your offense doing crazy things, both being technically outside of MVP candidates because of what Drew Brees is doing in New Orleans and how Tom Brady is just Tom Brady. But you just have so many weapons. You can do so much and just chunk yards out of almost any defense.
Right, and unfortunately, going to the Lions now, unfortunately, on our offense with JBC, you're going to see the same thing happen to him, like what happened with Alex's very, very favorite coach.
Least favorite.
Jeff Fisher.
I was just fired.
Yeah. I just saw a couple things that popped up this week after the loss against Chicago that he's on the chopping block, and he was technically on it last year for a couple weeks until everything stood up and started going again. But I mean, you guys are 25th in pass offense with Stafford, who's at the very least considered an average starter by people outside of the Detroit area, and at number 16 ranked rush offense, which is shocking. And with Kerryon Johnson gone for the rest of the season, Blount's only averaged 25 yards a game. Of course, he's been the backup, but you're looking at sloth-like backfield for the rest of the season, and Stafford not being able to hit a receiver to save his life.
Which means that heads may roll in downtown Detroit.
And Patricia, sure, he got. Everyone said, yeah, he came back over the Patriots and won that game, but that seems to be a theme with first games for previous assistants under Bill Belichick. Vrabel did it too. McDaniels, when he was in Denver, did some really good things. I don't think they played the Patriots that season, but they beat the Steelers. I remember that game. That was the game that everyone was like, "Holy crap, he's for real!" So there's a big game, and every one of Bill Belichick's underlings when they branch out to their own team. But since then, it's been pretty scuzzy.
You could say we've been in the pit of misery, dilly.
With your goalpost winning you 2 games, Carolina and Green Bay.
Doink! So I ask you, as for Detroit, what's left to salvage out of this year?
Spoiler, essentially. You can hold off the Rams' inevitable lock on the NFC West. They're so far up that it's all but mathematically impossible for the Rams not to have the NFC West crown at the end of the season. The magic number is 1. The odds that the Rams don't win another game and the Seahawks don't lose any single game is pretty much impossible. You can try to increase the value of some of your larger stars. Anza can try to get out at the end of the season. There's been talk about him being kicked anyway, so he can try to make some value for himself. Some of the receivers, Jones or Galladay even, could try to make plays to get traded.
Which Marvin Jones just went on IR as well.
So he's completely toast. So yeah, and you guys got rid of Tate. So you really have nothing except experience.
Fun fact about Marvin Jones, you've followed Adam Schefter on Twitter probably since you've been on Twitter. Well, the last time that Marvin Jones went on IR for Cincinnati, Adam Schefter tweeted his famous pocket tweet. That was retweeted so much, and Adam Schefter had tweeted, "Funny how people react to rather than Marvin Jones going on IR." And then Cincinnati signs some other Oakland receiver to replace Jones.
Yeah, I mean the best thing they can do is just try to play spoiler. I don't think it can happen this week. I know they have a couple division games left that they can try to screw up the wild card for the NFC, but that's really their best bet for the rest of the season.
Yeah, unfortunately we couldn't stop the Bear train, and our buddy Jeff is going to be having some playoff exposure.
Not even with Chase Daniels as the Bears quarterback, he managed to beat the defense. So imagine that with the Rams.
Sean Mannion?
That's my jersey number, and that's unfortunate because it wasn't his number before, so I claim it first. I have more value than Sean Mannion, I believe. But, I mean, Rams are healthy, except for Kupp. Guess who's back? It's Aqib Talib. Going to patch up the secondary because Peter Shields and Joyner trying to make it work with nickel packages, just not enough. There's enough weakness in there that we saw Mahomes really go crazy, but we saw Breeze do it too, and with the linebackers being the known weakness, you can't have a weak secondary on a single side. So have both those quarters back will greatly increase the effectiveness of the pass defense.
Just remember, Aqib Talib and Steve Smith, still a better love story than Twilight. Unfortunately, one of those guys is now retired, but isn't Steve Smith like 50 years old? No. Actually, I'm 35. If you remember the Jimmy Kimmel tweets. So, that's exactly where Alex was just showing his notes. In fact, he does actually have notes for the show. That's why he's very
I'm prepared this time. I'm trying to reduce the stuttering and get everything out clearly.
And that was actually going to be my next points. We'll go keys to since your notes have it, keys to a Detroit Lions victory.
Okay. Rams are notoriously poor on third down. Getting any movement into either short or medium yardage on first down will be a key, because that way you can set up a decent pass attempt by Stafford, which is what they love to do anyway. Mm-hmm. So getting some movement, getting into a 3rd and 6 or shorter, will greatly increase their odds of being able to move the ball down the field. It doesn't guarantee points, but it guarantees movement and exhausting a defense. Attack the middle of the field. As I said, linebackers are the weakness. Cam showed up last week 2 weeks ago. Before then, who heard of any of the Rams starting linebackers at the beginning of the season? Almost nobody. There wasn't much there because of injuries that it was able to sustain itself. Large rushing games allowed against the Seattle twice. Kamara chewed him up. There's just too much of an opportunity for Blount to come into his form circa 2013, 2014 and just bulldoze 8 and 10 yard gains.
Or maybe circa 2011 when he punched a guy.
Well, someone has to replace Ndamukong Suh on that sideline, which, hey, he hasn't had very many penalties this year, thank God. The final one I have is to lock up one aspect of the Rams' offense. You can go after the rush, but we saw that didn't matter against the Chiefs. You can go after the pass, but we all seen Gurley set it off and just go nuts. So if you lock down one, you can at least slow the roll of the Rams offense. Detroit has a smaller stadium, but it's loud enough that in the beginning that it could disrupt some things. I saw that happen last time they were in town. Of course, that was with essentially a ghost team on the field, and our favorite Jeff Fisher still coaching.
Yeah.
But we'll see. The first couple of drives set the tone, and Lions could at least get themselves in it.
In fact, you had actually gotten a bit of a reaction from your favorite coach the last time we were in Detroit. As you saw, if you're on YouTube, I showed the picture of his sign on our one of our shows.
I don't know if that was the greatest show in turf will always be in St. Louis, or the because the other one I had was Jeff Fisher is the and Stan Kroenke are the NFL's relocation squad, because they helped move the Titans to Tennessee. And the Rams both to St. Louis and back to Los Angeles.
Actually, the Oilers to Tennessee, but they became the Titans, so it doesn't really matter. But
same technical team. I mean, the Ravens were the Browns, and look what they did once they dropped that name.
Yeah.
On the flip side, keys to the Rams winning is don't be cocky. This is a clinch game. You have to keep it going. Just because Seattle has won twice in a row doesn't mean you can just go, they're going to drop one eventually. You have to show that you can win it. You're fighting for that number 1 seed because you don't want to play in the Superdome of New Orleans again, instead of the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, because they're not going to the playoffs. But both Mercedes-Benz branded stadiums. Thank you, corporate advertising. But you have to try to get there, and this team did beat the Pats and the Panthers. Although the Panthers have come on hard times recently, we're not really sure why, but the Lions have beat the Pats and the Panthers this season, so you can't count them out.
Exactly. And so my keys to, let's say, keys to a Lions victory will be, as you'd said, stop one of the two. My thought was stop Gurley, but last week, or 2 weeks ago, Gurley was effectively stopped. The rest of the offense wasn't. If that's the case, then, of course, Detroit's defense is I guess. Patricia and Pasqualoni are doing the right things. They're just not executing them right. And in a first-year head coach, that's going to happen.
Yeah, Lions ranked 30th in pass defense yards per play and 9th in rush defense yards per play.
I was going to say the secondary has been our problem, and that has said so. So I guess we're going to have to go with the stop Gurley technique and just hope and pray that we can get to Goff at least once or twice, and I'll be drinking some Goff syrup under my coat inside the stadium. Sorry, Ford Field ushers. That's just how it's going to be. But anyway, keys to a Rams win. Like you said, don't get cocky. You have to win. That's the key to a Super Bowl, is WINNING, winning.
Yes.
Not Pete Carroll, LOSING, losing. That's Pete Carroll logic. But but Sean McVay, who I try to call the PJ Fleck of the NFL, is a winner.
Except PJ Fleck's done pretty poorly in Minnesota. Partially not his fault. Recruiting in Minnesota hasn't been great, but yes.
And plus, PJ Fleck's Minnesota just beat Wisconsin for the first time since before Twitter was a thing. So they're rowing the boat in the right way. But don't get cocky. Feed Gurley. If that won't work, then just dump it off to Gurley.
Yep.
I guess.
Yeah, the screenplays or the jet sweeps, which are going to be mostly with Cook now, because Kupp did about half of them. Now it's going to be mostly Cook. That's going to be a big part of it. Offensive churning is great, and get that defense locked down again. Stafford's having a bad year. You got Talib back. Peters is healthy. Show it. You can increase your defensive efficiencies, but keep the receivers from getting the ball downfield.
This will tell you, sometimes my brain is still in the Jeff Fisher era, but I was thinking to myself, oh, jet sweep to Tavon or jet sweep to Brian Quick. Well, the reason why I thought of Brian Quick was because I actually play Madden Overdrive, and on my Detroit Lions team, I have Brian Quick. So, and I like to jet sweep to him in the Overdrive.
And we saw how Tavon Austin, everyone thought that he was going to be a star receiver, a little too small, fast, and had Butterfinger hands for a wide receiver, and he moved to Dallas, and same thing happened. So that was not a Rams problem, thankfully.
He's more of a return guy / jet sweep guy.
Devin Hester in the slot.
Yeah. So, Sunday afternoon, after everyone else has polished down a couple of beers, since we're actually going to the game, by the way.
Yeah.
If we hadn't said that before.
And I know quite a few people who are going to be there, actually, from my work. They're part of a party bus leaving from our local Meijer. Shout out to the Midwest. And going to be going down there. They're going to be directly opposite of us at the stadium. We're on the visitor side near the one corner, and they are like directly opposite sections, like 2 rows difference. It's nutty how close and opposite they are.
So while I'm looking for reporters, you're looking for your friends.
They're not going to be my friends Sunday. They've already said it.
So just being real. So score prediction: how will Sunday afternoon go?
Halftime will probably be close. Wade Phillips does a lot of adjustments in the second half. We've seen that throughout the season. I'm going to say 42-17. I think the Rams are going to wake up late second quarter, early third quarter, and just put the hammer down until mid-fourth when they just hand it off to whoever wants to play running back.
I kind of figured he would say the Rams would whoop Detroit, and I'm going to say it's going to be a closer game than that, but I still project the Rams' victory because Detroit seems to just be in shambles. Like I had said on the other podcast, I had envisioned a ladder, an 11-step ladder. Well, rung 2 and it went out, obviously, on Thanksgiving. So that's gone, just like on South Park, and it's gone.
Yeah.
What? It's gone. It's not there anymore. So at this point, just salvage what you can in this game. Well, this game is going to be Detroit's test to see where they're at in terms of where their football team, is. Yeah. Offensively and defensively. Right now, most people, and myself included, think not that good. So I'm going to say Rams 45, Detroit 30.
Oh, you're expecting the offense Stafford to wake up, or at least get a couple turnovers.
I'm thinking so, and it's because when you a defense on a team that scores a heck of a lot of points like the Rams do tends to give up a heck of a lot of points, and I could see that happening on Sunday. So, we both think the Rams are going to win. We both think the Rams are going to clinch the NFC West on Sunday. And Alex thinks they should have clinched the NFC West in Week 1, but some things aren't that realistic.
No, and if Seattle wouldn't have matched up against the Panthers and beat them, because the Panthers have had pretty poor last few weeks, they would have been the first team since the 2002 division swaps to clinch the division on their bye week, which would have been an interesting accomplishment considering how early in the season it technically would have been.
Mm-hmm. Only week 12 now, and we're in week 13. Yeah. So
more normal.
Yeah. So with that, we go to, as I call the most heralded segment on the Tom Green podcast, and that is
The Rapid Fire.
The Rapid Fire Picks. We have 10 games this time, and that's because our drinking buddy, Aaron Gosser, got on the show just a few hours ago, and he wanted to defend his crown from last year. So I'm giving him a chance. And as Alex is known from the fan Rapid Fire Picks, it's tough sledding nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, I got 2 weeks going 7-2 or 6-2 or something like that, and that was for the first 7 or 8 weeks of the season. All of a sudden, someone goes 8-1, and that's it. Like, it's been, and with the late in the season, it was harder to determine, especially in the conference games of the college football, who was going to come out, because there were enough upsets that Tom picked to throw everyone under the bus.
We were this close to everyone being out by Saturday of Thanksgiving weekend, and I was considering throwing another matchup in there. We still had, I'm not sure if it was you or Britco, but one of you guys were still in the running going into Saturday, so I just left it as is. But this time we have 10 games. You got to get 9 out of 10 right for a 90% winning percentage, and perhaps the rapid fire crown on the guest pick. So unfortunately, this week you won't be in the fan pick because
I was here.
You're on the guest pick.
Yep.
So, but people, do not be afraid to tweet the guest pick or the fan pick, because every week is a new week. You can go 0-10 in 1 week, and you could still win the next week. Yep. So be not afraid.
We're not doing the 538 cumulative score per week based off of ELO. That's a little too intense for Tom's sake.
Yeah. Especially, he's the numbers guy, not me. So, starting off, Pac-12 Championship, Utah, Washington.
In Santa Clara. I think Utah's been a bit of a hot streak late in the season, but after we saw what Washington did to the Fighting Mike Leaches of Wazoo in the Apple Cup,
in the snow.
I'm saying Washington is going to come out with this one 38-20. I think it's going to be a heyday for the folks up in Washington State, and they're still going to get left out because the Pac-12 did not do well enough to get in, but they'll make themselves known.
Yeah, both teams are ranked in the double digits, which I'm surprised that Utah's even ranked, but that's what it is. I'm going the Fighting Chris Petersons as well. I forget what I said in the podcast with Aaron, but somewhere in the 30s to 20s, like 34-27, something like that. Something close, but Washington win. Big 12 Championship. Oh, the Red River Rivalry rematch.
Part two.
Yeah.
And this is in Dallas, so even though it's a home game for Oklahoma, it's a home field advantage for Texas.
Which it's that same way, just a few miles down the road for the actual Red River Rivalry at the Texas State Fair. Corn dogs.
Now, can the Longhorns do it? Can they stop the Big 12 from getting in the playoffs again? Can Oklahoma come forward and show that they actually own the Big 12 and at the end?
I'm surprised I didn't throw them off when I said, corn dogs.
No. Corn dogs are good. Even with the parity of the Big 12 and how teams are top to bottom mostly decent or better, I don't think it's going to have to stop the Boomer Sooner song from being played multiple times. Oklahoma 41, Texas 35.
Which you left out that every time an Oklahoma fan walks in the stadium, they play Boomer Sooner, because that's how many times you hear that song every Oklahoma game you watch.
Yes. Even
when it's a road game, it gets annoying. But besides the fact, I think you're going to be hearing Boomer Sooner in the playoff once again. Oklahoma wins on a last-second field goal, 44-41, the opposite of what happened just a few miles down the road at the State Fair. SEC Championship, Bama and Georgia.
Oh, Bama. The love-hate relationship of college football, because you're so great, at the same time, we all hate you. Georgia, on the other hand, is the disappointment. They show up, they get ranked low single digits, actually. They get high in the rankings, and then they drop a game and they just lay an egg. Now, this is in Atlanta, which means, again, technically Georgia should have home field sound inside of the stadium, not artificially piped in, like the Georgia Dome. But
Falcons.
With Bama not winning any game by less than 3 scores, and that was at A&M, it's not going to be able to stop Tua and his train. I think it's going to be Alabama 45, Georgia 15. call it a goofy score. It's going to be a goofy game.
I think it's going to be a close game, but like I'd said on the one with Aaron, the Tua train just unstoppable. Give me Alabama 35-20. Something like that. And the alternative could be it ends up like Bama LSU, like 24-0 or something like that. Mountain West Championship, Boise State, Fresno State.
Group of 5, where you don't get a neutral site. But Fresno State is in a kind of a ditch in terms of the matchup between Fresno State and Boise State. They haven't won in a while against Boise State. And they've both been decent teams for that conference.
Derek Carr.
Well, I think he's still better in the NFL than in college. But
I think he wants to come back to college.
well, it's just because it's just because of his coach. But with the blue turf in the blue in the blue field,
it is in the blue turf.
In what when I checked earlier, looked like it could actually be a blue sky, but really freaking cold. So the thermometer will be blue if nothing else. I'm going to say Boise State 31 and Fresno State 20.
Believe it or not, I did not realize this was at the blue turf. I thought this was either neutral site or Fresno.
I had to check it.
But, because I had actually said on the podcast with Aaron that there was no blue turf, but there is.
Yep.
So, my mistake if you listen to that. I'm actually going to change my pick. I'll take Boise as well because it's on the blue turf. Fresno State will be looking down, and they might end up actually bleeding blue because that's what the color of blood looks like when it's inside your body.
No oxygen.
No oxygen. Exactly. Boise State 41, Fresno 30. Because in the Mountain West, when you're a state university in California, do you play defense? I don't think so. Marshall and Virginia Tech, and I know you guys are thinking, what the hell is this matchup on the docket for? Well, Alex will explain.
Well, it's a late game. Well, it's a late season rivalry game between two teams that are Marshall, which is okay in a crappy conference, and Virginia Tech, which is crappy in an okay or better conference. Mm-hmm. So that's a decent matchup on the face of it. It's in Virginia Tech's territory, though, which
Blacksburg.
Is not very great for Marshall. Marshall's best games of the season. South Carolina canceled because of weather. NC State lost. Mid-Tennessee State, leading their division in the CUSA, lost. FIU, currently right behind them in CUSA, 3-point win. Not great.
And they're going to the Bahamas, FIU is.
Hey, got to do something nice.
Yeah.
Virginia Tech, though, losing 4 of the last 5 games in pretty convincing fashion, but against superior competition. ACC, although the basement is pretty dirty, has some decent teams in it still. I'm going to go with Virginia Tech. It's going to be closer than the spread I saw. I'm going to say like 24-10 or 24-14. Make that the spread right now because it's going to be a low-scoring game, I think. I think Virginia's just going to muddle through it.
The reason that I thought he would mention and he didn't was that if Virginia Tech wins, they go bowling. That's the big reason why I decided to throw it in the docket. Marshall has 8 wins, but just like Alex said, competition, just like what I'll be saying at the end of the game on Sunday. But besides the point, give me Virginia Tech. They have a huge bowl streak. They'll continue it. 31-20, something like that. So I guess I'll take Virginia Tech in the points. Going to the NFL, Thursday Night Football. Saints, Cowboys.
Drew Brees versus Garrett Clapping. Cowboys have won 3 in a row. Not nearly as impressive as the Saints. But they've been against subpar Philadelphia, Atlanta, which has been muddling through their season, and Washington without their starting quarterback. Even being in the Jerry Dome, which is going to be essentially a prep for them for the weekend. I don't think the fans of Texas will get a heavy dose, or the fans of Texas will get a heavy dose of disappointment. Give me the Saints, 38-10. I think the Cowboys are just going to crash.
A couple of days ago, Alex was commenting on NFL memes posts, and him and I were just trolling just about every comment with Jason Garrett clapping memes. When Dak runs the ball for 3 yards on 3rd and 10. Give me the Saints The Cowboys, again. Saints 51, Cowboys 30. Baltimore, Atlanta, Battle of the Birds.
This could be fun with Lamar Jackson. He's doing pretty decent so far. He's showing the Ravens organization they can do something other than pocket passes, which is something that every team should explore in at least a little bit. Lamar Jackson does that in spades. And the Falcons are definitely not the team that made the Super Bowl. Pretty much their downfall started when they lost that game. I'm going purple. It's going to be Ravens 28, Falcons 17. I think Julio gets a touchdown and everyone feels good about picking him in fantasy, but that's about it.
Including yours truly in the Super League. This is the one where I'll go contrarian. Atlanta at home. Baltimore is a tale of two teams, one that shows up and one that doesn't. With Lamar Jackson, they seem to have shown up. It's too bad that Curtis Samuel isn't their starting running back, and they sit next to each other on the bench.
Samuel Jackson.
Jackson. Give me Atlanta 35-30. Close, higher scoring, even though Baltimore has a defense. Atlanta really doesn't. It's at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Once again, corporate.
Yeah, not the New Orleans one, which is their biggest rival. So hey, Mercedes-Benz, you got that locked. You always win with that rivalry.
Exactly. So Saints-Falcons, who wins? Mercedes-Benz. Atlanta wins that one. Carolina and Tampa.
Earth, the Panthers. Can you hear me? They got stopped by the Steelers, which was kind of surprising, but kind of accepted as the Steelers were really riding a hot streak at that point. But they followed with a bumbling loss to the Lions, is what I'm going to call it. And Gano choking. And then again, Gano choking against the Seahawks in Carolina.
Yep, at home. In fact, I guess the secret is I did have a few drinks during that Lions game against Carolina. Do I need to do that again for them to win? Who knows?
But the team's kind of falling apart, aside from Christian McCaffrey doing amazing things as a hybrid running back wide receiver.
Over 50 DraftKings points last week.
Yeah, which is unheard of.
And I still didn't cash.
Well, because everyone caught him plus Juju and, everyone who got 30 plus.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go with the Bucks as they're going to call themselves a spoiler, but it's just that they're playing slightly better right now, and it's in Tampa, 21-20. It's going to be a dogfight. Oh, actually, not much a dogfight, more like people without the ability to feel football dropping it all over the place.
This one I'm going to go contrarian as well. Tampa's quarterbacks put up a lot of yards. Guess what else they do?
Throw up a lot of interceptions.
Throw a lot of picks. And guess what Carolina's defense can do? Catch a lot of those picks.
Maybe they need to have them play wide receiver.
Maybe. They also have a captain on their team on defense. Captain Munnerlin. I caught him off guard there. Give me Carolina in this one 31-24. Close game. Jameis starts. Fitzmagic comes in the fourth. Jameis throws 3 picks, and Fitzmagic throws 1. Cam does not throw any, but runs for a touchdown because he's on my fantasy team. 425 game protected by Fox. And I say this because Alex and I were somewhat hoping that Detroit and LA would get flexed to Sunday night way back when, but that didn't happen.
Yeah.
Minnesota, New England.
It's goofy. It's going to be dark in Boston, or near Boston, excuse me.
At kickoff.
Yeah, at kickoff at 4:25 p.m. on the East Coast. But Bill Belichick is having one of his normal seasons. Everyone doubts him at the beginning of the season, loses a weird, goofy game, and then you go on and just essentially pub stomp everyone into the ground. Vikings are not a pushover, but I do believe that they're not going to be able to win in Gillette, which is the best man can get.
Exactly. And then, of course, whenever he loses, this quote comes to my head.
What do you think having a 37-year-old? We're on to Cincinnati. It's nothing about the past, nothing about the future. It's right now we're preparing for Cincinnati.
In fact, I've said it before on the show. If ever I have a bad quiz, or like a breakup or something like that, what do I think of?
We're on to Cincinnati.
Yeah. I'm going to go Pats 31, Vikings 20. It's a score and a half. The Vikings try to play. Diggs makes it interesting, but in the end, they're not going to stop Tom Brady being himself.
There's one element of this game that we're missing, and I hope it happen, and I hope we get it. It starts with an S and ends in no. Snow.
And the Vikings don't play in snow, unlike their college counterparts that they shared a stadium with for a few years. So that would definitely mess with the Vikings.
And of course, one of Alex's favorite NFL football games, a 59-0 loss can't stop this coach.
Nope. When Jeff Fisher loses that much, he's going to go up and win the next 6. Just mark it.
Give me the Pats in this one, 20-7, low scoring. Let's say there's an inch of snow on the ground because it's Boston. It's Boston. It's Boston in the middle of the winter, even though winter hasn't started yet. You don't know whether it's khakis or khakis. Go Pats. Flex to Sunday Night Football. And I thought this would be flexed about a week before they actually did flex it. Chargers, Pittsburgh.
Now, we had Steelers end up losing last week. Kind of a shock, but at the same time, all good things must come to an end. Big Ben says his interceptions aren't a problem. He has 12 so far. Chargers defense is not bad, but not elite. Interesting fact, the Chargers have not lost outside of the city of Los Angeles. Now, their loss to the Rams is their only loss as an away game. So technically, the Chargers not lost outside the market. That will change this weekend, but that is something that is interesting going this far in the season and seeing their losses. They are worse at home than they are away, which considers a 25,000 capacity soccer stadium in a town that doesn't really care for football, it seems, or at least they have a lot of displaced fans who live in LA. It's gonna happen. You're not gonna have a very loud home crowd, but I'm gonna say Steelers win it, 28-10. It's gonna be early for the Chargers, but not early enough.
Pittsburgh wins this game as well. James Conner hopefully runs for 2 touchdowns because I have him on my that same fantasy team. And I would, of course, like many others, was hoping that Le'Veon Bell would hold out their whole year, and he has. So hopefully Conner takes advantage. Pittsburgh 31, Chargers 17. Yeah, there we go. So that is our rapid fire segment, and as always, do you have anything else to add to this wonderful Tom Green podcast?
We'll see what happens Sunday. It's going to be not really an early morning, but an early enough morning where we're going to have to stop for breakfast, which I'm okay with. Hopefully to see people down there. You'll be able to find Tom pretty easily. You'll be able to find me, I'm sure. I'm probably going to be in a spot with a sign. I think I'm going to change what it said from what I sent Tom earlier because they're already ahead of that, but we'll see.
Of course, you'll find me in my Tom TV 23 sweatshirt as always, probably talking to some reporter, probably a chick.
Likely.
And his Dewitt 14 jersey. And hopefully McVay throws him in the fourth quarter, if that's the case.
Hey, when we went to see them, we saw the Rams beat the Lions last year there in St. Louis. That was the big talk on social media. Put someone from the crowd in because you can't do any worse. and then the guy that was playing ends up going to Super Bowl. So hey, stuff happens.
Yeah. He is our super fan, as mentioned on the show before, Alex Dewitt, and this has been the Tom Green Podcast.